Hello and welcome back once again to the Wrestling Rant. It's time for the SmackDown coverage. And this SmackDown was from June 14th, 2013. They were in Greensboro, North Carolina. The show starts with a recap of the whole thing between... Let's see, it was Big E and Jericho having a match on Raw. And Ziggler was at ringside, he got involved, and then Del Rio came out of nowhere and cracked him, yada yada. They recapped that. After that, they recap The Shield and their whole thing going with Team Hell No and Randy Orton. And then the show actually starts with Daniel Bryan coming out. And he comes out and talks. And Kane comes out and they continue talking. They're still fighting over all this who's the weakest link bullshit. Finally, I think what happens is... Right. Kane... The way the conversation goes, it starts leaning towards the fact that Daniel... Or it starts to seem that Daniel thinks that Kane has been the weakest link the whole time. And Kane asks him, he says, "Do you think I'm the weakest link?" And the whole thing, when Kane first came out, he said, it's really not the time to go into this. And so when Kane asks if Bryan thinks that Kane is the weakest link, Bryan responds by saying, "I think you're right. I don't think this is the time for this." But Kane is like, "No, you're going to answer me." He says, "Answer the question," and Daniel goes, "Yes! Yes! Yes!" And so he's saying, "Yeah, you're the weakest link." And Kane puts the choke on him like he's going to choke slam him. And then all of a sudden, Randy comes out. And Randy says, "As much as I'd love to watch you choke slam Daniel, trust me, I'd love to watch it. But I need him at 100% on Sunday for the big tag team title match." I don't know why Randy cares. I really don't know why. Honestly, the tag titles are so far below him at this point, I really don't know why he cares. But for some reason he does, so whatever. Randy comes out to stop Kane from choke slamming him, and then the three of them start verbally fighting each other. And then they show the Shield guys up on the Titantron. And they're doing one of their, normal promos where they just pick up a camera and, start talking into it. And they basically say that, we love watching you guys fight each other because that means you're not really focused on us. It's playing right into our hand and all that stuff. And, but whatever the fuck, they interrupt and whatever. So that segment ends. They cut backstage to Sheamus, who is walking, and he's getting ready to come out. So they cut to commercial. They come back from commercial, and Sheamus comes out. And then, as Sheamus gets in the ring, you can notice that Antonio Cesaro is already in the ring. So Cesaro has been jobber entranced. So Cesaro gets jobber entranced, and before because it's looking like these two are going to have a match, but before the match starts, they show a recap of last SmackDown when Sheamus got his ass handed to him by Sandow after he kicked the stupid supercomputer thing. And of course that Sandow didn't like that, so he went crack happy and decided to destroy Sheamus. So they cut back to the ring, and it's looking like they're getting ready to have this match. And speak of the devil, out comes Sandow. He comes out, and he starts talking, and he says, "You know what? I've beaten you mentally, and after last week, I've beaten you physically as well. And now, I'm just going to assassinate you." Or no, he says, I remember what he said. He says, "After this Sunday, I will be hosting your Irish wake." like, okay, great. So they start having the match finally. And right at the beginning of the match, pretty much, Cesaro slaps Sheamus in the face. Not a good move. You piss Sheamus off, and Sheamus goes crack happy, starts beating the fuck out of Cesaro. Cesaro counters it and knocks Sheamus out of the ring. And then he goes after him. And, oh, right. Cesaro goes out onto the apron. And he goes to, like, dive down on Sheamus. Like, he tries to cross-body him for some reason from the apron. I don't know why. But it doesn't work. Sheamus catches him. And I think he does basically a fall-away slam. And he throws Cesaro into the barricade with it. So, after that, they cut to a commercial. They come back, and Cesaro's making his comeback. He does that big swinging chin lock thing again that he did last time. After that, Sheamus is able to make a comeback. It goes back and forth. Cesaro comes back, and then Sheamus comes back again. He throws Cesaro over the top rope to the apron. And then he catches him and he does the hook in the arms and the clubbing on the chest thing. And then after that, he cinches him up for the Irish Curse. But he does it from the apron. He lifts him up with it, brings him into the ring, and then backbreakers him with it. And I think after that, Cesaro was starting to make a comeback. He throws Sheamus into the corner. But Sheamus charges out of the corner with the brogue kick. I think Cesaro was charging in to do something. But, like I said, Sheamus charges out of the corner, nails the brogue kick, gets the win. So, Sheamus wins there. Sheamus is leaving, he goes onto the stage, and like a jackass, he turns around to face the crowd and do his little beating the chest and stretching his arms out, the big fella, And as he does that, Sandow comes out from the curtain, cracks him from behind, lays him out. And then he leaves. Sandow leaves. Sheamus gets up, and he doesn't even seem to be all that bothered by it. I mean, he should feel kind of dumb for lowering his guard. But, whatever. That thing, the segment ends. They cut over to the announcers, and they're talking about, up next, we're going to talk about Punk's return. His big return at Payback, him and Jericho. It's Punk's big return. So they cut to a commercial. And on the way back from it, or on the way to it, or whatever, there's another Wyatt family video. They're really wasting a lot of time for these Wyatt family numbnuts. I really doubt the whole thing's gonna last all that long. But anyways, another Wyatt family video. They come back, and this whole thing about Punk's return, essentially they recap Punk's entire WWE career. They show clips from his debut on ECW. Everything up to... about the only thing they didn't show was the crap Straight Edge Society storyline, which was crap. They showed all these other things. And, like I said, just basically recapped his entire career in the WWE so far. Being the longest reigning champion in the last 20 years, all that stuff. Anyways, after that, they cut to Teddy Long in the office. And he's on the phone with somebody, and he starts plugging Hardee's, because for some reason they've been plugging these Hardee's burgers here lately. Teddy goes to dig into one of these burgers that's sitting on a table, and just as he's about to, in comes Ziggler, Big E, and AJ. And Ziggler's talking, I'm making my return, and I already have to face Del Rio in a tag match later tonight with... They basically just use this as an opportunity to announce the match. It's going to be Big E and Ziggler later on versus Jericho and Del Rio. and we'll get to that later. But they're talking and whatever, and Teddy's like, I'm trying to eat here, and they're like, oh, that's a shame, and whatever. So they piss off, and again, it looks like Teddy's going to dig into this burger, and right as he's about to, Big E comes back, snatches the burger out of his hand, takes like 5 or 6 real big, really aggressive bites out of this burger, and then he just hands it back to Teddy, half-eaten. So Big E just ruins Teddy's burger, and he like really ruins it. He mouth rapes this burger. Anyways, so that's they cut back to the arena, and out comes the Great Khali. They cut to commercial, and I'm like, well, great. Who is the Great Khali going against? They come back from commercial, and all 3 of the dudes from the 3MB are getting into the ring. So they essentially get jobber entranced. We find out that it's going to be Heath Slater, and I'm pretty sure they did this same match on Raw, and it sucked then. It's not going to change 4 days later. But anyways, the match is short, as you might expect. However, I don't want to spoil the surprise. The match starts going. Khali slaps Slater around a couple of times, and then they cut over to the outside of the ring where Jinder Mahal and Drew McIntyre are. They go over to where Natalya and Hornswoggle are, because of course Hornswoggle and Natalya are out there with Khali. But Drew and Jinder go over to Natalya and Hornswoggle, and they're messing with them. One of them shoves Hornswoggle over, of course, because they're going to bully the midget. Great be a star bullshit, I guess they forgot about that since Linda's campaign is fucking over. But anyways, so using this whole thing as a distraction, Khali's distracted, Slater comes from behind, clips Khali's leg out from under him, and then turns him around and plants him with a big snapping DDT, kind of like how The Miz does his big snapping DDT. But Slater hits Khali with this DDT and pins him. He actually beats Khali. And I'm like, well, whatever. Khali sucks anyways. Honestly, they should be doing this because he's a joke anyways. But, the 3MB guys, they bail, because obviously you're not going to want to try and stay around and celebrate with Khali being there, because he's a big motherfucker. Even if he is just a big goof, he's still a big guy that could kind of beat somebody up. But anyways, they bail and the segment ends. And again, they cut over to the commentators, and they're saying, oh, we've got tag action coming up. And, so they're saying, oh, we've got tag action coming up next, and then they cut to commercial. We cut back, and Lillian introduces Ricardo in Spanish, and again, we've seen this before. So, of course, Lillian intros Ricardo in Spanish, so Ricardo can introduce Del Rio in English. Del Rio comes out, and then Jericho comes out, and then Ziggler and Big E come out. It's time for this tag match. It's looking like it's going to be Del Rio and Ziggler to start things off. But no. They're starting to get ready like they're going, and they're starting to look like they're getting ready to go. Ziggler backs into his corner and tags Big E in. So it's going to be Big E starting off with Del Rio. Yada yada, some stuff goes on. I didn't take full notes for this one, but Del Rio tries to get at Ziggler, but Ziggler bails off of the apron, and he's like, no, you're not going to get me, whatever. They cut to commercial. They come back. There's some more fighting between, I think, Big E and Jericho. Jericho winds up on the outside of the ring. Oh, right, I remember. He throws Big E out of the ring. and then like baseball slide drop kicks him, and then he goes out after him, but Big E Jericho grabs Big E, throws him back into the ring, and Ziggler starts waving his hands or whatever to distract the referee. As Jericho's getting in the ring, AJ grabs him, turns him around, and slaps the hell out of him. And so he's kind of dazed on the apron. Big E recovers, runs over and knees Jericho, sending him flying into the barricade. And then Big E goes out of the ring, runs him back into the barricade again, throws him back into the ring. I think at that point, Big E tags Ziggler in, and Ziggler grabs Jericho and basically does the Rude Awakening. He cinches him up for a neck breaker. He starts, waving his hips like Rude used to do. He doesn't drop down to his ass like Rude does. He does, the falling neck breaker like, most people do nowadays. You don't see people doing that kind of neck breaker anymore. I don't get it. But whatever. So Ziggler does that. Jericho makes a comeback, tags Del Rio in, and then Del Rio starts his comeback combo immediately. And he gets the big tilt-a-whirl backbreaker on Ziggler. But then Big E comes out of nowhere and flattens Del Rio. He just hits like big avalanche, the big double clothesline sort of thing. Flattens Del Rio. Jericho comes in and kind of forearm shots Big E, knocking him out of the ring. And then Jericho turns around and gets drop kicked in the face by Ziggler. And Ziggler's bragging about it. This is why I'm that damn good. He goes over to Del Rio, who's still down after getting flattened by Big E. I keep getting confused here. Del Rio apparently playing possum this whole time. As Ziggler comes over to him, he cinches him up for a small package and gets the 3 count. So he wins with a quick friggin' roll-up bullshit finish. And then, of course, he bails outside of the ring to go celebrate with Jericho. They're walking out. Whatever. The match was decent. Of course, you've got Ziggler in there. Del Rio's decent in the ring. He sucks on the mic because he can't hardly speak English. But, he's decent in the ring. He's a lot better than some of the schmucks we got in this company. But anyways. So we got that going. We cut to another recap of earlier the Daniel Bryan, Kane, and Randy thing that started the show, and of course it also shows the interruption by the Shield guys and all that stuff and whatever. So it shows a recap of that, and then they cut backstage to Caitlyn, who is walking through one of the hallways. Looks like she's coming out for a match. They cut to a commercial. We come back, and Jericho is backstage with Renee Young. He cuts a promo, and he's interrupted by Heyman. Heyman talks for a little bit, and he's talking about the whole thing with Punk, and he's in the middle of saying something, and Jericho hits the mic, and it bashes into Heyman's mouth. So he pops Heyman in the mouth, and then Jericho kind of brings the mic back over to his own mouth, and he goes, "Pipe bomb," and then he walks away. We cut back out to the arena, and Oksana is already in the ring. Okay. Alrighty. Anyways, Oksana's in the ring, and then Caitlyn starts coming out. And as she's on her way down to the ring, they recap the whole revealing of the admirer from Raw, Big E, and then it's all a ruse, and AJ set it all up, and yada yada. And as they're showing this, they're showing it on the Titantron, so everybody can see it. And so, right, but anyways, they're showing this, and they cut back to the ring after they show the recap, and Caitlyn is watching it, and as it ends, she kind of looks back, kind of, she still feels really bad about it, But then they show a shot of Oksana, and she's laughing at Caitlyn. And of course, Caitlyn sees this, and this pisses her off, obviously. Nobody likes being laughed at. But this pisses Caitlyn off. She runs over and starts going fucking apeshit on Oksana. And there's never a bell. There is a referee, but there's never a bell. The match never really starts. They're catfighting. They're, they go to the ground and they're hissing, throwing, punches and slaps and all this shit. They end up on the outside of the ring. The referee tries to separate them. Caitlyn kind of pushes him off and kind of hits him a couple of times. The really girly kind of, that shit. They wind up back in the ring. The referee tries to separate him again. Caitlyn turns around and cracks the dude right in the face, slaps him hard. And during this distraction, Oksana runs off, and Caitlyn ends up face down on the ring, face down in the ring, still kind of crying. She's an emotional wreck, all this shit with, AJ and Big E, They're really trying to build this up. And apparently, after this happened, of course, since SmackDown was taped on Tuesday, apparently Caitlyn supposedly got fined, 10 grand for this incident. Whatever. So that all happened. After that, they cut to another freaking recap, this time of the Cena and Ryback shit. The whole 3 stages of Hell match. They're building up to that, whatever the fuck. And this being the go-home show before the pay-per-view, I guess we have to do that. After the recap, Curtis Axel comes out with Heyman. They cut to commercial. When they come back, Wade Barrett has already come out and he's in the ring. So it looks like these two are going to have a match. And considering the triple threat at the pay-per-view, I guess we need to hype it up, so whatever. But before the match starts, Barrett asks for a microphone, and he says he wants to talk to Heyman, businessman to businessman. Of course, Barrett, had this gimmick for a while where he was, I'm a prize fighter, I only fight for the money, in his limey Cockney accent, the douchebag. He's got his crooked nose, he can't talk for shit, he's got no charisma, and hardly any in-ring talent. But anyways, he starts talking, and he says, essentially what he says is, since we're having our triple threat on Sunday, does it really make any sense for us to beat the hell out of each other right now? I mean, honestly, one of us could get hurt and end up not being able to compete on Sunday in the title match. And so he's trying to appeal to Heyman, the businessman, and Heyman's like, well, he doesn't have a mic or anything, so he's just kind of saying, you've got a point. But, so basically they don't want to have the match. And even Axel's kind of like, yeah, that makes sense. But all of a sudden, The Miz comes out. And he's like, really? Really? Doing his really, really thing, whatever. And he says, oh, isn't that cute? You guys don't want to fight, Maybe you guys should be on Dancing with the Stars as a couple, all this. He's just egging them on, all this, shit. So, anyways, he eggs them on. They start having the match. The match is pretty short, but it's okay, at least. Okay. The match doesn't really last long. Quickly, they end up on the outside of the ring. And The Miz is standing on the outside of the ring. He's not on commentary or anything. He's just standing on the outside of the ring. And let's see. Barrett is kind of bent over. I think what happened was he threw Axel into the stairs. And then he was kind of tired, I guess, or whatever. And he goes to... But anyway, so he throws Axel into the stairs, and then he's kind of tired, so he's kind of bent over. Axel comes back, and he goes to hit Barrett with a forearm shot or something. But Barrett ducks. Axel goes over and clobbers Miz. Wipes Miz out. They get back in the ring. Or what happens is Barrett is able to use this distraction, essentially, to... kind of recover, but he doesn't really. He throws Axel back in the ring and then starts going to get in the ring himself. And as he's getting in the ring, Axel catches him with the McGillicudder through the ropes. Like, it's essentially like the rope-hung neck breaker that he did on Raw or whatever it was, but he does the McGillicudder this time. So he nails that, and he pins Barrett after that. He doesn't hit the perfect plex or anything. He hits the McGillicudder through the ropes and gets the win with it. And so he's celebrating. Miz comes out of nowhere, hits the skull-crushing finale on Axel, and then he celebrates. And so, whatever. After that, they cut over to the announcers, who segue into another Wyatt family video. Who gives a shit? After this, they cut to... No, wait, they don't. After that, they cut back, and the Shield comes out. So it's time for their match with Hell No and Orton. They cut to commercial. When they come back, Hell No and Orton are already in the ring. They get jobber entranced. This is weird, but we'll get to that in a minute. Bryan starts off with Rollins, and he immediately does his comeback combo. And then that sets Rollins up. He starts giving him the chest-kicking combos. Yada yada. Later on, Randy power slams Ambrose and then Rollins. And Rollins rolls out of the ring, and Ambrose rolls out to the apron, and Randy goes to set him up for the rope-hung DDT. Rollins comes back up on the apron, and Randy kicks him, sets him up for the DDT. But... it gets countered. What happens is he doesn't really get either one of them slung on the ropes. They're both still on the apron, and Ambrose breaks out of it, basically snake eyes Randy over the top ropes, and then Rollins jumps up and enziguri kicks Randy in the face. So they get out of that. After that, they cut to a commercial. They come back. The Shield are still in control. It was Reigns, I think, who was beating up Randy. Randy is able to counter out of it and makes the tag to Kane. Kane comes back and he's beating up whatever the fuck. He goes up top and goes for his clothesline, but he misses it. I think Rollins was the one who was gonna take it, but he rolls out of the way or whatever. Or no, it was Ambrose. So Ambrose rolls out of the way, so Kane misses the clothesline, and then Ambrose comes running, drop kicks Kane, who backs, he sells it, he backs into the corner and falls down, and Bryan tags himself in, and he comes in like a house of fire and everything. He jumps up to the top rope, big front missile drop kick, wipes out Ambrose, and then he nips up, and Rollins goes to try and make the save. Or no, Rollins tags in, because, when Ambrose got drop-kicked, he rolled into the corner. So Rollins tags in, and he goes to do a springboard move, but Bryan catches him with another drop-kick, and this wipes him out. Rollins rolls out of the ring after that, and Bryan runs over and drop-kicks Reigns from out of the corner. And they both go out of the ring. Bryan runs across the ropes and does his suicide dive through the ropes and wipes them out. and then he rolls Rollins back in the ring, and he does 2 of the big screaming corner drop kicks. And he goes for a pin, only gets 2. He starts doing the chest kicks, and he's kicking the hell out of Rollins. And then Reigns rolls into the ring, but he eats a kick to the head. And then Bryan turns and kicks Rollins in the head too. Gets a 2 count. He goes for the headbutt. He goes up to the top rope for the big Benoit headbutt, but he's stopped by Ambrose. Ambrose grabs his leg, he's holding him, and during this time, Reigns is distracting the referee. But anyways, Bryan kicks Ambrose off or whatever, goes for the headbutt. Rollins moves out of the way, so Bryan misses the headbutt, and Rollins goes for a cover on Bryan, only gets a 2 count. Kane comes in, throws Ambrose out of the ring. Reigns comes in and throws Kane out. And then he turns around and Randy's there to give him an RKO, but Reigns shoves him off into the ropes, and as he comes back, he spears the shit out of Randy. Randy ends up on the outside of the ring. They cut to the outside of the ring. Kane is going to choke Ambrose, but throws him out of the way because he sees Reigns coming to try and spear him through the barricade again. He sidesteps it and throws Reigns over the barricade into like the timekeeper's area. And then he grabs Ambrose and lifts him up, choke slams him over on top of Reigns in the timekeeper's area. Back in the ring, Rollins hits the turnbuckle powerbomb on Bryan, and then he goes up to the top rope. Don't know what the hell he was going to go for, but Kane jumps up, shoves him off the top rope, and Randy's in the ring. Randy catches Rollins, RKO's the fuck out of him. And then Bryan rolls him over, locks in the no-lock, and makes Rollins tap out. So they win. The first defeat of the Shield in 6-man tag team action. And they actually won. So the Shield has finally been defeated in 6-man tag action. So the Shield has been defeated. Really a bad way to do this. I mean, it was obvious that the Shield was going to be defeated sometime or another, but A, this is way too soon, and they did it in a very anticlimactic way on SmackDown, which hardly anybody frickin' watches SmackDown. And not only that, but after they win, Lillian gets on the mic, the ring announcer, and she announces, the Shield has finally been defeated in 6-man tag team action, and here are your winners, Team Hell No and Randy Orton. And of course they celebrate, and that's the end of the show. And I'm like, okay, so great, you make this big deal about it, but you waste it on a throwaway show. Really a bad way to do this. They could have done it in such a much better way, but they didn't. They fucked it up. They wasted it on a SmackDown. But, I thought this episode of SmackDown could have been a hell of a lot better. They wasted the Shield's first defeat. And, honestly, they just wasted it. It could have been so much bigger and better if they had just, built up more to it. But no, they wasted it on SmackDown. They could have done it on Raw. They could have done it at a pay-per-view. They could have built up to it more, and it would have been so much better. And not only that, but the Shield is one of the best things they had going for them right now, and they ruined it by having them lose like this. Again, they've only been in tag team action for just a couple of months. And like I said, they just go and ruin it, and they fuck it all up. So, I just don't get it. But that was SmackDown. The match itself, the tag team match, the six-man one at least, was pretty good. I mean, obviously. And the tag match with Ziggler and Big E against Jericho and Del Rio was a good match, I guess. Nothing else really stood out, I guess. So that was SmackDown from June 14th, 2013. And that was it for SmackDown. So join us next time for Raw on Monday. And we will see you next time for that.